Hello there, good friends of YouTube. I've had an email off Themaxii2007. If I'm reading the email correctly, he's asking me if I will help him get, point him in the right direction, how to build a Tesla coil and the parts you will need. So I'm going to start off basically by explaining a little bit on this diagram. So let me just get comfortable with this camera on this diagram. Let's get the light on as well. There we go. Might make it a little bit easier. Right then, Maxi, my friend. I'll call you Maxi2007 as I don't know your real name. So what you will need some sort of high voltage, say oil ignition starter or NST. This is a NST. Okay, neon sign transformer. 10 kV plus say 30 milliamps. Okay. This NST comes from your main socket, which is the AC input. So this has basically got a plug on it which plugs into the mains. Come into the NST. These are your outputs on the side, which basically go to a spark gap, and then from the spark gap that you'll need, I always have a fan on it because it quenches the spark. It works a hell of a lot better if you've got a fan blowing onto the spark gap like I have. I'll show you. You see here, this is my spark gap, okay, and I've got a fan there. This is a two-in-one fan, that is. It's very fast, and that blows onto the arc. Now what that does, it's blowing on the arc and it blows it away, so basically it's causing more of a pulse in the cable. It's like you blowing on a flame, you know, and you've lit a match and you're blowing on it, and it's trying to quench the flame in fact, and that's just basically what it does with this. It's blowing it away, so as the arc is coming away from the spark gap, it's basically contacting the spark gap at a particular time where it causes another pulse in the primary coil from the spark gap, if I've explained it correctly. So going back to the diagram, so from the spark gap it goes into a capacitor bank, and this is the wiring from the NST into the spark gap, and another wire coming from that into the primary coil, which is your primary coil of say 12 to 16 turns. That you'd be better with 16 turns, I think, because then you've got more of a room to move out the other contact, because you've got one wire which goes to, say, this wire, forget it connecting there, it goes around and connects to the end of there, and then this one will connect to the other side of the coil. This is basically the one that you would be moving around to get the right, oh, I'm not even there, sorry guys, there we go. This is the wire, excuse me, I got hiccups, I'm just not long had my tea. This is the wire that you basically connect to each wire of the coil to get the right frequency for the sort of coil that you'd be using and what top load, because every time you change the top load you would be changing the configuration of the wires of the primary. So the capacity bank you want really you want doorknob capacitors. I use doorknob capacitors at 40 kV. You can use 30 kV, but I've got 30 kV capacitors and they do get warm, so 40 kV ones don't get warm. They're just at room temperature, so they handle pretty well 40 kV, because you do have a back EMF from the primary coil which will basically cause a higher voltage and make your capacitors a lot warmer. So anyway, this is from the capacitor bank. You've seen my capacitor bank. This is my capacitor bank. Okay, here's your two connectors. These are 40 kV, these don't get warm. These are 30 kV and these do get warm. So so that's the capacitors done. So I've come from the NST into the spark gap, and from the spark gap into the capacitors, and then onto the primary coil, and then this is your secondary coil. Secondary coil can be anything from 300 turns plus on the secondary. I've got 1,000 turns on my other ones, up to 2,000 turns. It depends on what transformer you're using, what spot and what capacitors you're using, how many turns on your primary coil you're using. Going back to the NST, I would say get a Terry filter. A Terry filter is that's a Terry filter. I never had Terry filters on mine. I wanted to buy a Terry filter or build a Terry filter, but instead of me having to build a Terry filter or buy one, I had one given to me. This is a Terry filter. This is what you have after your primary transformer, which is this. So this you would have going into the Terry filter, and then coming out of the Terry filter, and then going into your spark gap. This Terry filter basically stops any back EMF spikes of any kind going back into the NST and burning the coils out. I've done that, I've burnt coils out before, so I know exactly why these are so important to have. So without the Terry filter, your transformer is not going to last very long, guys. And Themaxii 2007. So Themaxii 2007, this is how it all works. This is what you're going to need. You're going to need capacitors, a spark gap, a fan on your spark gap to quench the sparks. You're going to need an NST or an oil ignition transformer, or you can basically do in some ways what I've been doing it, and that's a flyback transformer. These I shall go into showing you the things that you can use for a high voltage transformer to drive it. Right, so these are the things that you can use. Let's have a look. Let's get a few things out and show you. Hold on. Got that many bloody bits and bobs. Hold on. I'm going to have to put the camera down for a minute. I'm still here, guys. I need another shed. I need another shed. I've got no room. I need another shed. Right then. These are the things that you can use to power a Tesla coil. Let's start off with the flyback. You can use a flyback to run your Tesla coil, or you can use an oil ignition transformer or gas transformer to start a gas burner off, or whatever you want to call it. This is 2 times 5,000 volts, if I believe I'm right. Oh, sorry, 2 times 4 kV at 20 milliamps. Okay? Or the old usual that everybody's always using, and that's a MOT, a microwave oven transformer at 2000 volts, or just over 2000 volts. Excuse me, I got an email. And I believe these things are about, I think these are, I'm not quite sure of the milliamps these things give out. I've never ever found out, never looked into it. I know they're high. Or you can use the MOT, sod the what I've just said. I'm not quite sure of the milliamps that these give out. I know it's a lot. I've never looked into it, never thought about looking into it. There might be about 120 milliamps, I'm not quite sure. I might be wrong, but anyway, these are lethal. Or you've got the good old NST, neon sign transformer, and that is 10,000 volts at 30 milliamps. And that's, I've put these contacts onto the end because the contacts are normally down there, and I didn't want to be fishing into it every time to wire it up, so I put these on each side. So, but only one side really works properly on this. The other side's a bit dodgy. It's never worked properly since I've had it, but I'll keep it because it's still high voltage. So they're the things that you can use to run your Tesla coil. So this is what I mean about swapping from different frequencies with your primary coil. This is just a bit of a fuse holder, like so. Yes, I've still not replaced that. I will when I get a minute. There's another NST, neon sign transformer. That's a 10 kV at 48 milliamps, and that's what I've been using. That's pretty good. I put some standoffs on that one because that one was just screws. So, beast. So, that's another spark gap. That's what you could use. So then, my good friend Themaxii2007, that's how you wire up a Tesla coil. And if you've not quite sure about anything else, if I've not done the diagram very well, I do apologise, but it's just a quick drawing that I've done to try and explain to you how it works, of how to put it together, should I say. So what this does, you get your voltage going into your spark gap, charges up the sparks, the capacitors, sorry, goes into the coil, into the wires, charges up the capacitors. That releases itself by jumping across the spark gap, pulses a voltage into the coil, which resonates up into the secondary coil from a frequency that it gives off, which gives an output out your toroid. Now, the difference, if you don't get this properly working correctly, which it all you know, it all makes a difference with the type of spark gap you use and how big your spark gap is. The more voltage you chuck into it, the bigger your spark gap. Otherwise, it just doesn't work correctly. You need the right capacitors, 40 kV, you know, at a really low. You know, I mean, mine are, I'm trying to think what mine are. I think mine are 40 kV at 204 nanofarads, I think mine are, something like that. Capacitors. When you start off, you know, to wire this thing up, don't have anything on the top. Give it a nice breakout, and then the bigger your arcs off the breakout, you know, you're connecting it up correctly to the right frequency with the primary coil, with the wire that I showed you on mine, where you can change it onto the different wires. So, and I'm rambling on, guys. I've not looked into this properly yet to say the correct things. I'm trying to do my best here. Give me a break. So, anyway, if you look on Google Tesla coil, you know, there'll be some more forums, or some people have trying to point in the right direction of how to do it. I started off not knowing very much, and basically learned myself a lot by other people pointing me in the right direction. So we all start somewhere and we all end up somewhere, don't we? And you know, so the best of luck to you, Themaxii2007. I hope you do really well. And if you need to talk to me about it or ask me any other questions, if I can help you, I will certainly try and point you in the right direction. So look after yourself, mate. Thanks guys for watching, whoever else is watching this. All the best in your future builds of Tesla coils or anything high voltage. Be safe, and thanks for watching.